Sure. Mm, Is this audio better than what you were hearing before,
Sounds good to me.
or is this audio better?
That's actually a little better.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I have like
cool.
a new webcam thing I'm testing out. Apparently, it has a good mic. I can't hear it, but if it
Gotcha.
sounds good to you, it sounds good to me.
Cool. Yeah, let me. And Ben, I'll go ahead and make you a co-host. Well, I know this is kind of like a last minute thing. I kind of made this up, Filmmaker Talk, so we'll see if it sticks. So we'll see where it goes. But appreciate you being our first guest and being flexible with our scheduling mishaps here in the past. But at least we made it work this time.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So I guess just to kick it off, if you want to introduce yourself, kind of explain, how you got into the digital creator space and like kind of, why did you choose video and photo as like, what you're doing today?
Yeah. So I guess the quick little rundown of how I got into it all. In eighth grade, I created a YouTube channel. I was trying to join phase and be a gamer at the time, a sniper. And
Yeah.
after a couple of years of doing that, I was like, wow, I'm getting absolutely nowhere. I think I built like a couple thousand subscribers, but I knew I was capable of doing more. So I transitioned my YouTube channel into a more lifestyle prank type of content, just some comedic content, and ended up by the end of high school having over 1 million followers across my platforms, across TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. Then went off to college, stopped doing the YouTube, and got into the sports media world. Started doing photos, graphics, videos from my school's hockey team in college. And then quickly after a couple of months, I was like, all right, I'm ready for a job. I wasn't really feeling college. And so I applied for a job, landed one with the UFC, dropped out of college, moved out. I was in North Carolina and Raleigh, moved out to Las Vegas to work with the UFC. I did that for the past 2 years and ran their TikTok, did a bunch of content for their social media. And then I left in January. And now I am on my own, doing my own business out here in Nashville, creating content for big brands around the world. So that's a little rundown.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, you know, I was curious because I know we talked about this before about, kind of your natural progress through, what you're doing today. But like, was there any like influences that you had, in the past? Like, what made you get interested in what you do right now?
As far as like the commercial side of things, or more so just like why I started with a camera.
Yeah, I would say like why you got started with a camera in the first place.
Honestly, like you have the typical inspirations like Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon,
Yeah.
obviously. But I genuinely like the reason I started the YouTube channel was like trying to become like a pro gamer, which sounds hilarious because I don't even own an Xbox anymore. But I'd also always been drawn to cameras, like on family trips. I always was the one using, my parents' camera to try to take pictures and stuff at the time. So I don't know if I can point to one thing in specific. I've always just kind of been drawn to creating and entertaining and just making things. Like my mom used always she shows me like these pictures when I was like 4 years old of me like creating costumes out of paper and like trash that we had. And, while that looking back on those photos, I'm like, I looked like a complete idiot. I don't know like what I was seeing in my head. I'd be like, this is a lion. And it would be like, a bunch of scraps taped to my neck. I don't know. But like I've always just like creating, and I guess camera was like the easiest way for me to get my hands on that side of things.
Yeah, it's cool to just, kind of figure out, you know, why did someone get into the creative space? And it seems like a lot of it too, it comes down to like parents, supporting it. being open to us being crazy when we're kids and then still supporting it as we grew up. That's kind of how like Ben and I was. Um, he was given a camera and then we kind of ran with it at like 7, 8, 9 years old, making these videos that we thought were legit. But looking back, they're completely silly and crazy. But our
Right.
parents are like, "Oh my gosh, that's the best thing I've ever seen."
Yep.
So it's nice to have that support system as you're growing up, and I think that has a lot to do with creatives today. Maybe they were
Oh,
given a
for sure.
camera when they were a little kid, and parents kept supporting, and now they're able to do it as a career. So it's kind of cool to see that natural progress.
Yeah, I 100% like my parents have been supportive through every decision I've ever made, like whether it's just to express my creativity or drop out of college and move across the country or quit what seemed like a very secure and really cool job working for a massive company. They've always had my back, obviously in the early days of me making my terrible YouTube videos, they were probably questioning it a bit, but I've proved since then, hey guys, I know what I'm doing. Just put a little trust behind me. And I could not be more grateful for that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I seen recently you made that post about the CrossFit Games. What was that like? Like, tell us a little bit about that experience.
That was awesome. So I have a friend here in Nashville. Her name's Carly. She is phenomenal. She's a photographer. She shoots for CBum and a bunch of other athletes in the space and the CrossFit space and the bodybuilding space. And she was like, "Hey, we need an extra shooter for our team at the CrossFit Games. Do you want to come?" And I was like, obviously, yes. And flew out there, and it was so great. I was cage side for almost every single UFC fight for the past 2 years. So my kind of bar for things that are exciting to shoot is pretty high. It's not like I was shooting a bunch of corporate videos. Like I was literally 4 feet away from people beating the hell out of each other. So going to the CrossFit Games was awesome because I could feel that energy again, being right next to these athletes, these like world-class people, literally watching these jack dudes go from handstands to lifting 300 pounds a couple seconds later to, throwing themselves up on the bars. It was very cool and a different sport to shoot. That I think that's one of the reasons she said they initially wanted to bring me on is they're like, you've never shot CrossFit, so you'll be able to bring like a different eye, a fresh view of the sport, which was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually have a little bit of background in CrossFit. I did
Oh yeah,
CrossFit like in 2015, and then I actually helped open up a CrossFit gym here in our area with a guy that
really?
is way more fit than I am. But then I stepped away from that. So he's still running the CrossFit gym. So I've been kind of around it a little bit. And Ben and I actually made a spec ad with him a couple of years ago. So that was pretty fun. So when I saw that, I was like, dang, you got to the CrossFit Games.
Right. Yeah. It was funny because right after that going to the games, I was like, God, I gotta start doing this. Like I had done like a bunch of weightlifting stuff or bodybuilding style of training before, just, strict weights. And then after going to the games, I was like, okay, I kind of want to see what this is all about. And now I've honestly incorporated it into my workout regimen just because I was so inspired by seeing those guys.
Yeah. So maybe break that down a little bit. Like, a lot of creatives wonder how they can get in that similar position. So would you say that it was more of just the experience where you kind of started off and then that opened up the opportunity, or was it like networking? Like, what would you say helped you get to that opportunity?
To the CrossFit games.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was probably a combination of both experience and networking. When I moved to Nashville from Vegas, I knew nobody, like literally not a soul. And so I started reaching out to a bunch of creatives. Like I started DMing people that I had followed that were in Nashville. And Carly was one of these people that I had followed for a while after like I saw Chris Bumstead post some photos and I was like, man, these photos are gorgeous. Who took these? I followed her. And then when I moved to Nashville, I was like, oh, no way, this girl lives here. So I just DM'd her. I was like, hey, I would love to get lunch, like just meet each other. And that ended up forming like a really great friendship. And she's one of my good friends today. I'm very lucky to have her in my life, and, someone we can always be vulnerable with, bounce ideas off of. And then obviously combining that with all the live sports experience from the UFC, I was able to just be like, have a great friend that was like, hey, this is your world, you want to help out. And so it was kind of a combination of both. But if anybody in here is ever wondering how to get leads, networking with people is always a great start. Like sending DMs, you never know who's going to answer or see your DM. Just shoot DMs out and do your best to just meet people, be a good person. Don't always have to go in for the kill, the close, just meet people.
Yep. Yeah. I was kind of thinking the same thing. It's networking, but also like just keep creating pieces of content because you never know who will see that piece of content. And so sharing that
Exactly.
content, or I think we talked about earlier about spec ads, doing that kind of stuff can help. And since we're talking about spec ads, I know that we talked about this as well, but that challenge that you did with spec ads, um, that was probably a bit of a challenge. But why do you think that spec ads is kind of important for a filmmaker or a content creator?
I think spec ads are important because as a company, as a brand, when a creator comes to you, you want to be able to imagine the value that they're going to be able to provide to your company, right? If you have someone that's like, let's go out of the filmmaking world for a second. Let's say someone comes up to you and they're like, dude, I could put the coolest paint job on your car. I promise. Like I could do the coolest paint job. And you'd be like, all right, like, let me see what other cars you've done. And they go, oh, well, I haven't done cars, but I paint houses, dude. It's kind of like, okay, yes, you're still painting, but like, let me see how you do it in this area, in this niche. So that's kind of
Right.
like the reason I look at spec ads is so important. If you're trying to do fitness content, make a bunch of fitness spec ads. So you're able to go to a bunch of fitness companies and say, hey, look, this is the type of content I can make that's very specific to you. And the brand can picture, oh, this is what this creator's content is going to look like. This is how we can picture it in our feed. And it just makes the process feel a lot more custom rather than you just shooting your shot with a bunch of different companies and seeing what sticks. I think a lot of people have DM me. I'm sure you get DMs all the time from other filmmakers being like, hey, I don't know where to start, or I don't know how to like
Yeah.
work with these big companies, right?
Yep.
It's like show them what you're capable of. And if that takes a little bit of free work up front to be able to then literally, if you make one or two spec ads, you can send that to 100 different companies in that niche. And at least you have something to show for instead of just being like, I promise I can do good. I
Yep.
promise, so I think it's really important just to like show what you're capable of.
Yeah. And it took us a little bit of time to make that connection. For us, it took a little bit. Like we knew spec ads was important. We saw people doing it all the time. Some of the spec ads is like ridiculous. Like, man, they put a lot of effort into it. Like, why are they doing it? And we realized, those big companies, when they're sitting around, thinking, okay, we have this huge budget, $50,000, $100,000 budgets. We wish we could get those projects, but they're not going to give it to someone that hasn't done something like that or similar. So, kind of going to your point, like they're not. Yeah, you might be a really good filmmaker, cinematographer, but if you haven't shot for that specific brand, that's a risk that they would have to take. And so if they choose someone that's already done it, they're minimizing that risk and knowing, these guys are probably going to be able to accomplish it compared to, someone that may
Yeah,
have zero experience in shooting a Apple commercial or a Shopify commercial. So
right.
definitely agree with the spec ads.
Well, and bringing it back to what you just said, like literally if a company, a lot of times companies are looking at multiple videographers, right? They're kind of like seeing what options they have. And if you have three guys and two of them are like, yeah, I can make cool videos, and one of them's like, here's something that I've done very similar to what your company needs, they're going to go with that guy every single time because they like know he has relevant experience.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we're actually working on a spec ad right now. It's actually taking a little bit longer than we're anticipating, but we're doing a spec ad with the Apple AirPods, and we're
Oh,
doing like
sick.
different eras. So we started 1950s, we shot 1970s and the 80s. So the next will be like the 90s, 2007 ish, and then modern times. But we realize when you do those eras, it takes a lot of a lot of prep, planning, props,
Yeah. Set
attire.
design. Yeah.
Yeah, so it takes a little more time, but I think the end product will be pretty cool. And I think, also with spec ads, even if we won't get an Apple deal out of it, it now opens up the opportunity to be in that industry, whether it's, Spotify or anyone who has a headphone, now we can
Yeah.
reach out to those companies and be like, it's, yes, it's an Apple spec ad, but now you know that we can at least accomplish it for your brand.
Exactly. When I did my spec ad series, I literally like when I made the Nike spec ad, when I reposted my post to my story, I was like hidden tagging Under Armour, Puma,
Yeah.
Adidas, like every single apparel brand in the space because it's 100% to your point. Like, what if you can create something like a company can go, oh, they can make one for Nike, they can make one for us, you know? And so it's don't just limit yourself to the spec ads for that one specific company. Like make one that's in the space and send it out to everybody that you can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's so because I have a few more questions here because I asked some of our people out on our broadcast channel. I was like, I saw a new feature on there. I was like, they can actually like interact with a question. It's a little more
Oh,
engaging.
sweet.
So I was like, let's try this out and see if we can get some questions. So we got a few
Yeah.
questions here, and one of them was, I think we're trying to do a collaboration ourselves with me, you, and another, content creator. So they asked about like, is collabs always a good thing? And how do you decide to collaborate with someone? I don't know what your process is with that.
I think there's not many situations where a collaboration is a bad thing if you're in the same space, right? Like maybe a collaboration wouldn't work if someone in like the beauty industry reached out to me and like, hey, let's collab. It's like, okay, while we're sharing audiences, it's not like my audience isn't going to be interested in what they're offering and vice versa. But like in the same space, I feel like it's a win-win for both sides. Like we both get exposed to new people, new, you know, like just like-minded individuals. And so I think
Yeah.
there's not really a bad time to do it. I just did a collab post with Artlist literally 20 minutes ago, you know, and it's
There you go.
like that's people in the same space.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree with the collaborations because, and I think the video production industry has kind of been like that for a long time. That's why they're always successful there in California or New York. They come together. Even people here in West Virginia, there's someone that we've engaged with several times, and they hire us to just do like the production work, and then they'll do all the editing. But they've been doing it for decades, and they told us like that's just how it works in those bigger cities. They come together to get those bigger projects, and they don't view it as like a competition. They view it as like we're able to do this together. You know, this guy's
A hundred
experienced at
percent.
this, and this guy has this connection. Come together as a
Yeah.
crew, and everyone eats at the end. So
Yeah, and you'll probably learn a lot. You know, if I initially thought we were talking about like collab posts, but I realize now you're talking about just like working with other people. That shows how much my brain is always on social media mode.
right.
But literally, like, yeah, no, I just did a shoot in Vegas with Project Rock, the Rock's apparel brand, and you know they had a DP, they had a photographer there, an assistant photographer, a bunch of gaffers. You know, it was a whole crew, a whole set, and like the amount that I was able to learn from working with these new people was awesome. Like I got to pick up some cues from the camera guy and pick up some cues from the DP and watch how they would like light things in a big budget production. So I always
Yeah.
think, you know, it's great to just go and shoot with people or even just do what we're doing now. I'm sure there's
Right.
some like we'll learn some things from each other, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe what plays into that, and I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of people in the creative industry tend to be a little introverted. Like sometimes I get nervous and shy about certain things, and so trying to push past that, and being okay to kind of get out of your comfort zone and meet other people, I feel like it can go a long way. You can make connections
Yeah,
that you didn't realize that you could. And then, a lot of us want to get those, bigger projects or more projects, or if we're just getting started, we're like, how do I get to this point? Well, this might be that way to do it, meet other people that already have those connections. And then just being willing to learn, which might take a little bit of humility on your part, to be like, I don't know anything. Would you teach me?
sure.
And you might be
Yeah.
surprised that people are like, oh, absolutely. This is what I do. And this is how I get the shot. And
Yeah.
people are more willing to teach than what you think.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was on set with Project Rock last week, the DP was asking me to help out just like with some lighting setups because they had a whole truck of equipment come in, and he was like, "Can you put this up on this?" and like used all these terms. I thought I knew video and lighting and all that, and I just stopped him. I go, "I don't know a word you just said, man. I'm sorry." Like just straight up, like I thought I knew a lot, but apparently I don't. And it was a good learning lesson.
That's kind of what we run into before, because a lot of people think, we went to film school and we didn't. We
Right.
we just got it all from YouTube and practicing. And so when you show up on sets or deal with people that have that background, yeah, they're saying all of these things, and you're like, wait, what?
Right. I
Why are you
remember
calling it that?
the first time I ever heard someone like call the record button, like they're like, yeah, hit speed. I was like,
Where's the speed button
hit
at?
what? Yeah. And they're like, record. I was like, oh, why do you call it speed? But that's the technical term for it.
Yeah. Like we said tripod on set, and someone's like, you mean the sticks? And I'm like, I
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, sure. Same thing.
Yeah. And I guess since we talked about you were thinking the other collaborations, we might as well touch on that too. Like, how do you go about working with different brands? As a content creator, especially as you're growing, you start getting reached out to a lot of different brands. So how do you determine who to work with, and do you just work with anyone and everyone, or does it got to align with what you're trying to do?
For me, I'm very, very picky about who I work with. I obviously have to like their product. I'm not going to promote something that I'm not a fan of. And then as far as like, yes, we get a lot of people that reach out to us, but sometimes you have to weigh, like for me, I'm like, okay, if my page becomes all sponsorship, then nobody's really gonna like enjoy that, right? So for me, even if there's a ton of opportunities, it's also spacing those out, right? So being like, hey, while I think this is a great opportunity, let's talk about doing this in a couple months from now, because I don't want to ever be that guy that's like constantly shoving brands down people's throats. Like I really value making my own content and providing value in my own way. So if I can find a way to, still pay the bills, but build that trust with my audience and really build that community that I'm looking for, then that's a win-win for me.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we when we first was really starting to grow, it seems like we were getting reached out quite a bit. And we were learning real quick, don't at first it might seem like, oh, I got to say yes to all of this. I've never had this
Yeah.
opportunity. And then you got to also realize that these brands are companies. And so if you say, yeah, I'll do it for free, of course they're going to they're going to jump on that quick. But being able to, negotiate with them, remember that you're also a brand, you're a business. And so being able to talk back and forth with them, a lot of them will be understanding, like, you can't spend hours of filming and editing for a piece of
Right.
equipment that may only cost them, $5 to make. It may
Exactly.
not be worth it too much. And so being able to, test the waters a little bit. We've done that before. People will say, yeah, can you do this product? And it seems like a cool product, but their budgets are pretty low. So being okay to say no, being aware of the time that's going to take, and being okay with that, because another opportunity might come your way that, they have a bigger budget and you can go all out and you'll feel better
Yeah.
about it.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
So let me look at a couple more of these questions.
Sure.
They have some technical questions here, like affordable way to record interview audio. Um, like what we use Sennheiser mics. We really like their wireless systems, and then we use a boom mic. we used to use wireless mics all the time. Um, and finally, we were like, let's get a boom mic because we were getting tired of seeing the wireless mics always show up on camera.
Yeah. Yeah. On a guy, I haven't shot an interview in a while, to be honest. I mean, but if I was, I would go, yeah, I'd go lav and then probably a boom as backup.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then this is an interesting one because I think a lot of people wonder the same thing. We get asked quite a bit is, how do you go about scripting and storyboarding? You know, whether it's for your content or for one of your clients. What do you usually do?
I am someone that I spend so much time scripting. Like, even if it's on a lot of my videos, I like to do like a little intro to introduce the content I'm about to show, right? I want to give people a little bit of context, help them understand, what went into the content and make sure that before they watch it, they kind of have a sense of what they're watching. And I spend, even if it's like a 15 to 30-second intro, I spend probably over an hour to 2 hours on that little 30 seconds because I'm really, really trying to make it engaging, say it in as few words as possible, and make it as understandable that didn't really come out the right way. Make it as digestible
Yeah.
to as many people as possible. Like make it, I'm never going to say like, oh, we took a 12 millimeter f4 lens and we slapped it on a FX3. Like, no, I'm just going to say we put a wide angle lens. Like, I want it to be able to be understood by anybody. Like, I used to have friends all the time be like, I'd be talking about camera stuff and they'd be like, shut up, nerd. And so I just want to like, be able to have like anybody be able to watch the content and kind of understand it regardless of their knowledge of filmmaking and stuff. So scripts I take a long time to develop because I really think that that's important. And storyboarding, shot lists, it kind of differs per project. Like, honestly, I think that if I'm building out a storyboard, I'm just trying to like visualize it in my head and just like write what I'm seeing. I don't try to overcomplicate it. Like, I just try to, if I in an ideal world, what would it look like? And then I'll just kind of write it out. There's no real method to the madness. I just try to make it look cool. And a lot of times I get on location and it goes completely opposite of what I initially had planned. But that's the fun.
I
I
think
really like.
that's a common thing. You can plan
Right.
as much as you can, but as soon as you show up, there's just something about it that you can't plan for everything. All the
No, not
variables
at
that come
all.
into play. It's like you didn't know that this actor couldn't talk, or the lighting's not just how you want it, or the house looks a little different. The space is tighter. I mean, all those variables come into play where you're problem solving pretty much on set.
I was gonna say that is a big thing that I think separates a lot of creators is your ability to adapt on set. Like, if the lighting's not how you expected and you only have two lights, understanding lighting at a high level so that you can actually, make those adjustments. I remember one time I was shooting some UFC fighters doing like some autograph signings in one of the hotels in Vegas, and I had brought a flash, and I was expecting to bounce it off the ceiling as you would typically do with the flash, not realizing that this casino floor had like 50-foot ceilings. So the bounce
Yeah, you
really
get no
wasn't going to
bounce.
do. Exactly. So I had to go over, and I think I stole like a menu from like a restaurant, and I was like, cupping it over the flash to like create my own bounce. And I was like shooting with two hands, and it was a mess, but the photos looked great. But it's just like that ability to adapt, that ability to be like, okay, I know I need some sort of whiteboard. It doesn't have to be like a fancy piece of equipment. It could literally be whatever's nearby and it'll get the job done.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because uh, Ben can attest to this. Every time we get on set, something will happen. We're like, we don't have this piece of equipment. And then you almost have to like jerry rig something that's a
Yeah,
little
exactly.
embarrassing. I'm like, do I even want to show behind the scenes of what we just did? But you get the
Yeah,
shot.
exactly.
The
I
shot
did a
still comes out
shoot.
great.
If you can see that whiskey bottle right there, I did a shoot for Dana White's whiskey brand a couple of weeks ago. I guess the last
Oh well.
week. It's been so busy, but I did one of those like POV shots where the camera is like locked onto the bottle and it's like being passed around to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And I got a super clamp to clamp onto the bottom of the bottle, and then I got like a magic arm to, put my camera on.
Yeah.
And I didn't check before I went out. I thought it was two identical ends on the magic arm, but one of them did not fit into the super clamp. So I was at this venue that I rented, and I was like scraping through the closet looking for duct tape, and I literally just like used an entire roll of duct tape to tape the arm on, and I was holding the camera up, and it still worked out. But yeah, like that ability to just kind of figure it out on set will help you out so much.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. It makes for funny moments because we've definitely done
Mhm.
stuff like that. And we'll just crack up. We're like, if we were showing this, or if like he had like this top notch director, he'd be like, "What are you guys
Yeah.
doing?"
But the thing is, as long as it turns out, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how you got there.
Yeah, exactly. And what were you going to do? Just not get the shot? That was probably
Exactly.
like a key shot to get. So you
Yeah.
made it work. Let's see here. I think we only got a few minutes because we have a shoot at 2:30. But let's see what
Okay.
else we can.
And I'd love to take some questions from the beautiful people that have been listening too at the end.
Okay, cool. This was an interesting one. They said about like how does AI help with your process? Do you use any kind of AI for any of your stuff?
It is always up on my second monitor, always.
Okay.
I use it a ton. I mean, for everything really, like client emails, for honestly like scripts and stuff sometimes. But my rule is I will never start with AI, right? I will always, because I want the creative process to still come from me.
Yeah.
So if it's a client email or if it's a shot list, I will always write it myself and then plug it in there and be like, hey, make this better, make this sound more professional, make this sound, whatever it might be. Whether that's putting together like a budget for a client and like listing off all of the things that they'll get and like really sprucing it up to sound super professional. I use it every day, but as far as the creation side of things, that's like more the admin word
Yeah.
blocks and paragraphs and stuff.
The boring
As far
stuff.
as the exactly, which is why I use it because I don't like the boring stuff. But as far as creation, I honestly don't use too much of it. Like sometimes I'll pop a photo in generative fill for Photoshop or something like that. But as far as I think the only thing I use day to day is like captioning, like for my captions on my videos, that's AI. It'll
Okay.
just auto generate the captions and then know when to flash up the words. But other than that, I honestly like kind of old school when it comes to the actual creation part of things.
Yeah.
But I'd love to get it more involved.
That's very similar to what we do. A lot of the admin stuff, and I literally do what you do. I'll write an email and I'll copy it and put it into like ChatGPT, and I'll be like, "Can you write this in a professional, tactful
Right.
manner?" And it'll spit out something. And even though it spits out something, I'll still change it a little bit because sometimes it's
Oh,
like
for
that's
sure.
not how I would say that, and change it. But it makes sure that you're conveying, your thoughts in a way that that person understands. Because sometimes I think for me personally, it's like I have this thought, but I don't know if that person's really understand what I mean. So
For
having
sure.
someone kind of check over it really helps to
Yeah,
make
and,
sure
and
that
I
I'm
feel
saying
like
it.
we've got so much on our minds all day, like creatively, that like the less energy or mental spend I can do, or the less energy I can spend on like the more boring admin tasks, that gives me more energy I can put into the creative ones. So that is like, it kind of allows me to, you know, be more focused when it comes to editing videos or photos, when I can just kind of half-ass put like all the admin stuff off to the side.
Yeah, it's like having like a little assistant with you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I guess the answer for us is as far as the creative, we don't really use it either. Um, we kind of just only use it to maybe help with ideation, like kind of like what you're saying. We have an idea, and we'll use ChatGPT to really help us with that. But other than that, we don't use all the fancy stuff that I've seen out there.
Right. Well, I mean, like, I think it has its benefits, but at some point, I never want to like our gift is that we're creative people. And if I
Yeah,
can use it to supercharge me, that's great. But the moment that I start relying on AI to come up with all my ideas, that's where you lose that unique touch that companies pay for, right? If a
yeah,
company wanted to use AI to come up with their ideas, they could do that. But they come to us because we can think of things way out of the box that are catered to a certain brand or custom to like a brand's needs. And while AI
yeah.
can do that, I think at least starting with what's in your own head, what you're most inspired by, is always going to get you the best results.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I actually shot a little video that I'll probably work on later. I talk about that idea of like, everyone's looking for ways to make as many videos as possible in an hour, right? All these different
Yeah.
things using AI. And I was just thinking, like, could that hurt creativity? You know, you're almost skipping certain processes. And I talk about, a lot of creatives on this platform, they learn so much after their 50th or 100th video or
Mm-hmm.
1,000th video. But if you're new to the space and you immediately jump into that, could you actually be hurting, the potential of what you could have learned by doing something like that? And so I just talk about, are these tools more suited for someone like that's been in it, has the experience, or is it for someone that's new? And I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like it's more for someone that's maybe done it for some time. They have that experience of editing and filming, and they done scripting and storyboarding. So now that tool is just like an extra asset
Right.
that just kind of boosts that creativity even more.
I feel the exact same way. And a great like parallel with that is people that like out of the gate have never filmed anything in their life. So they're like, I'm going to get a red camera. And you're like, well, why don't you start with like a starter camera? So then you
Yeah,
can learn like what you're looking for in a camera, learn like why the red is so much better, learn why, you know, people use certain pieces of gear, certain lenses, certain like there's so much you learn from doing it yourself kind of in a small capacity at the beginning and
yeah,
then being able to make that jump. And I feel like it's the same thing. If you jump straight in with like AI and all this, you're like not really learning the fundamentals so that you can know how to supercharge yourself.
yeah. That's kind of my thinking on it. Is I think it's more of a tool for someone that's been in it. Try not to skip those fundamentals, like you were saying, because you can learn a
Yeah.
lot just by doing that. I mean, you think about editing's been around for a long time, and that doesn't mean that I'm opposed to it. Things are
Yeah,
shifting,
exactly.
so you kind of got to shift with it. Um, but understanding those fundamentals can help you go a long way. Utilizing those tools.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know there's a few people in here. If anyone wants to like raise their hand, I think there's a raise your hand feature. If you got a question, we can.
What's
There
up,
we go.
Austin?
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Loud and
Absolutely.
There
clear.
you go. Oh, thank you guys for taking the time to do this. This has been awesome. I know for I'm in here by myself most of the time, so it's nice to actually like hear other editors and filmmakers talking. but um but yeah, no, it's so cool to talk to you guys because I watch, I'm on social media all the time seeing you guys' stuff and it's all incredible work. So thanks for putting it out there and inspiring us all.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you a lot for
But
watching. That means a ton.
yeah, dude, of course. It's a ton of work. So you just know there's some people that care about it.
Good.
Good to know.
um Let me see. Feel like I'm sideways or something. That might be a little bit better.
There we go.
Good.
Yep.
There we go. But I had a quick question about one of the reels that you guys did, Caleb, about pitching to Marshall College. Like
Yeah.
super stuck out to me, and that's exactly the kind of like brand films and the kind of work that we're looking to do in our city right here. And so, like a specific question I had about that is when you created that and you reached out to them, did you were you following them on LinkedIn for a while, on Instagram? Did you have like kind of a pass with them, or did you just cold email, hey, we have this idea, can we meet? And they actually took a look at it and got in touch.
Yeah. So we didn't really know them. So we did some work for their alumni association. which is interesting. It's like it's part of their company, but not. They're kind of connected, but separate at the same time. And so we got to do some work for them. Um, and so they told us who it was. And so we
Gotcha.
didn't have any connection with this person at all. And so we just shot them an email like, hey, we got this great idea, which is funny because it's like you kind of have an idea, but you didn't have a fleshed out idea. So it's like, hey, we have
Yeah.
this great idea for you if you have some time. And they're like, yeah, sure, let's set up a meeting. We're like, okay, let's really dig into this idea and make sure it's great. So that's when we were like, okay, let's create this whole story, pulled pictures, we rented out a 30-second video. Ben actually put his voice on it, which is funny. They ended up actually using his voice for the
That's
actual
funny.
video. Put some music on there, which is the actual song that we ended up using for the video. So it was basically the idea was fleshed out from
Yeah.
beginning to end. We just needed them to sign off on it, which makes their job easier, especially if it's like an executive. They don't have a whole lot of time to have several meetings.
Yeah.
But if you already have the idea fleshed out and you just need them to say, looks good, let's do it. And all we needed was like, okay, this is what we need. We need these locations. We need this many people. It just makes their job easier, which you're kind of minimizing the workload that they have, which makes it easier for them to say, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
I'll add to that. Yeah, sorry. I'll add to that it was really like a referral. So we already had a relationship, like you said, with the alumni, and the university itself was looking for a video to be made, and so they had seen our work from the work that we did with the alumni, and so the contact for the alumni got in touch with them and referred us. So that was really like, that's the importance of referrals too, is
yeah.
if you can get your clients to put in a good word, and obviously having a good relationship with them helps, but putting in a good word for the people that they meet and interact with, obviously they had association, so
Yeah.
that makes it easier, but that just shows the importance of referrals as well.
Yeah. No, that's super helpful. Because like I said, where we're at, we are completely have like restructured everything towards doing these larger brand films, these bigger story pieces, client stories, brand films for these companies, like, lawyers, wealth management, people that have kind of like a high ticket service. And so,
Yeah.
it's so cool to hear that kind of workflow of having this really good idea and pitching it, and, kind of it's worth spending the time in the beginning to flesh out this idea for somebody, that might not see it, but the fact that you guys had kind of a referral for it is super cool. And I feel like, especially with colleges too, they're kind of, they have pages for people to reach out to. Like they kind of put that information out there. So I feel like it's a little bit easier. But yeah, you guys did awesome work on that one. I was like, I saw that reel and I was like, what? That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
sick.
it was definitely a fun project, and you also have to think too. A lot of these people, they're not creative
Yeah.
themselves, because before that, and sometimes we still do it. Sometimes you try to convey an idea to, say you jump on a Zoom meeting or you meet them in person, and you're trying to tell them, we got this really great idea. This is how it'll go, and they're going to do this. They may not be really following along with you because
Yeah.
they don't have that like creative mindset where they can see like they're on the same page. So showing them something that's tangible, go
Yeah.
ahead and have that music with the voiceover. They're like, okay, I definitely see your idea now. Instead of like, I think I know what you're doing.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And
That's
Caleb, I actually remembered just when you said that about AI, I do use it a little bit creatively. I've started using Midjourney in my pitch decks. So to,
Hmm.
once again, you said, a lot of the people that are making the decisions at these companies aren't necessarily the most creative or visual people. So I'll
Yep.
like in a pitch deck be like, here's the concept, and then kind of like storyboard out kind of the visuals I'm thinking of to help that client visualize what the video could look like, get lighting reference. And a lot of times of the clients that I've pitched to have loved that. They're like, oh, I can really see like what you're talking about. And so that's just another way to try to get those conversations moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because some people are commenting like, "Well, isn't this a pitch deck?" And it's kind of a pitch deck, but not, because it's all it is was a 30-second video, right? It's not showing like this is what this will do, and this is the target audience,
Right.
and this is the plan for it. It was just like, here's as close as possible without us physically shooting it of what the video will look like, so that they can
Yeah.
actually almost get emotionally tied to what they're
Yeah.
seeing. Like, I gotta have that video.
Yeah.
How much time do you guys put towards doing that level of like cold marketing work versus like, are you putting a ton of time and effort into finding exact specific direct like leads that you want to reach out to and doing that quite often, or are you doing email campaigns and stuff like that?
Not as often as we'd like. We're selective with that. So obviously, you want to choose a company probably that's has a bigger budget for marketing. You don't want to choose just someone that probably only has a few $1,000, right? That's a lot of work to get that. So you're just being selective with it. We knew that, putting this much time into it, we were thinking of a higher price point. That's why in that reel, we were shooting for 40 grand. We actually didn't even know if they were going to say yes to that. And it surprised
That's
us
all.
when she's like, "Oh, say, so how much is it going to cost?" And we're like, to cover all of this and do this, it's going to be about $40,000. And she's like, "Okay." And she moved on, and we were just sitting there like, "Oh, okay." No
That's awesome.
negotiation. Cool.
It's like, did you guys ever watch The Office?
Yeah.
It's like that scene when they buy out Michael Scott's paper company. They're like 100,000.
Yeah.
Like, be cool. No, that's super cool, man. That's awesome. Seems like
So
it's gone well.
I would say just, find someone that you really want. So if there's a company that you're definitely wanting to attack and get,
Mhm.
you have an easier chance to land a meeting with them if you tell them that you already have an idea that you want to share with them, because that might
Yeah.
pique their interest. Like, okay, this guy's already got some kind of idea about our company. I'll listen to them. Or if you tell them, it's only going to take 5-10 minutes, that's a short amount of time than saying like, I need 30 minutes or I need an hour. Just be quick with it. Show them that. That's why I was saying, like, if you can show them a 30-second snippet of something,
Yeah.
go ahead and entice them. That can go a long way.
That's awesome. That's super helpful, dude. Because like I said, there's a couple of them that around where our little office studio is that we're really, really wanting to work with and have these what we feel like is manageable, good ideas. That it's good to hear that that's something that's worth putting the effort into. Beforehand is actually like coming up with that, sending it over, and it's worth that time because, like you said, it just saves them time and energy. And if they aren't as creative, they can't think through the idea. Because I mean, as filmmakers, editors, we'll go off on tangents about this cool idea, and someone's sitting there like, "Okay, I have no idea what you're talking about." So that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, definitely just try to have an idea before you cold pitch someone or try
Yeah,
to get them interested. That can help. I mean, we've done that before and it may have not worked out in the end, but it's landed us meetings and at least a connection with them to speak with them. Because even if you pitch the idea and they're kind of like not wanting the idea, maybe they have a different idea later. Like, we have this idea that we'd like for you to shoot in a year from now. At least you made that connection that'll help you later down the road.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the less back and forth you have to do with a company too, right? Like if you go, hey, let's hop on a call, and you are immediately in that call, here's the idea, maybe you have a pitch deck ready and you don't have to hop on a follow-up call to talk about
Yeah.
what the idea is. Like the less of a like hassle you are to the company, the more likely you probably are to land that deal.
I like that. That's true. Because I feel like once you get into these bigger production, it feels like there's going to be a lot of back and forth, but that's a good way to not have to do that.
Yeah, like I used to have corporate meetings all the time, and then like I'd come into the meeting and they'd be like, all right, this meeting is about, I want you guys to come up with like 3 ideas that we're going to go over in a meeting tomorrow. And I was like, why didn't you just tell us to come up with 3 ideas for the meeting today? And then we have 1 meeting instead of 2. So I try to like take that mentality across a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Cool. I see Arda has their hand up for a while. I'm curious what the question you have. Appreciate your question, Austin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thanks,
you guys very
Austin.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How
Good.
are
How are
you?
you?
Doing pretty well, man. Beautiful insight on some of the stuff you guys were talking about. I really love the stuff with the spec ad stuff because that's kind of exactly what my brother and I were thinking about. My brother's a marketing consultant. That's what he does, and I personally like would do content creation and stuff like that. But when it came to, I recently just moved to the US from Dubai after like 7 years of working in the film industry there, and I find it really difficult to be able to like rent gear. And I think I posted this question as well on your Instagram group, but I'm having trouble finding rental houses where it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to really get gear.
Yeah, I'm sure it's maybe different in different countries. We usually use like a company called Lens Rentals, so it's just a website. And what I like to do is I try to factor in any rentals with the client. So if I know if I get a client that I'm going to rent some lenses, I factor that into the cost. And
Mhm.
I try to be transparent with the client too. Like, we're gonna have special equipment that's gonna make the video look way better. It's gonna have this look. Maybe it's a look that you have a shot of or a reference photo that shows how it could look. That can help convince the client too, like, this money is also going to be used towards renting equipment that's just going to
Oh,
make their
right,
end
yeah,
product
absolutely.
look
Like
so much
that's
better.
been yeah, that's been my tactic with my clients, like even in the past. But when it comes to, I'm sorry, maybe I should have specified. Maybe I meant more towards like the deposit of the camera. Like some rental places want the equal value of the equipment rental in deposits. And since I just moved here, I haven't really like sorted out like anything to do with my bank account, my credit cards and stuff. I'm not really looking forward to getting a credit card, but if I have to, then I guess I will. But are there any other places that, don't cost so much on deposits specifically?
Friends.
Yeah,
Gotta
friends and
make
other
some.
filmmakers. Um,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Like if you could reach out or try to find some other filmmakers in your area, or that's like within driving distance, they usually can give you some good deals. That's happened with us because we'll have some equipment. They saw that we have a film cart. We might only charge them $50 or something. Whereas if they try to rent that, from a rental house, that might cost them a little bit more. So that's good advice. If you have, some people that are, doing similar things as you, see if they got some equipment that they're willing to rent out to you.
Yeah, I know if
Right.
someone hit me up and was like, "Hey, are you using your camera on Friday? I'll pay you $200 for it." I'd be like, "Sure, it's all yours,
Yeah.
man."
Hmm. Well, interesting. Well, perfect. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Appreciate the insight.
Of
Yeah, no
course.
problem. Appreciate your question.
Anybody else? Grace, Futi, Anthony. Anybody? No? Okay.
All right, cool.
Oh, here
Well, I
we
think
go.
you got something.
We got something in the chat. I think it was a direct message to me. I will read it out loud. I'm a 3D
Okay.
designer, motion designer. What advice would you give me to get more engagement on my page? I think at least, I mean, and Caleb, you can talk about the strategies you guys have used as well. But for me, I think one way I always try to think is like, how am I providing value to people? Right. Like, you guys do it a ton when you show, here's how we structured this deal, or here's how we shot this video. So as like a 3D designer, a motion designer, like, can you show the BTS on how you made something, or can you show the results that maybe got a client instead of just posting your work all the time? Like, how can you get people hooked? Focus a lot on like creating engaging content instead of just your final product, because while other 3D designers and other motion designers might appreciate that content, if you're really going for businesses and you're really trying to get leads, you need to find a way to present it in a way that these people that are making the decisions in these companies also understand, and find a way for it to reach their feed, which is a more general approach rather than a super hyper specific approach.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then just post as much as possible. So you might have to be okay with capturing some video about what you're doing and talking on the subject. And, from my experience, a lot of the stuff that we know, we kind of take for granted. And, and it could be the most simplest things, but talking about those simple things can kind of help show like, what you're talking about kind of thing. And people will start trusting that. And that's how you can start growing that page, is speaking on it, but also kind of educate, be entertaining, start
Yeah,
understanding how social media works with hooks and such, things like that, and just being consistent. Just don't get downhearted if you post for a month and it's not getting where you want it to go. It's about, can you keep pushing past that? Can you post for 6 months? Can you post for a full year? And
yeah,
then after that amount of time, that you're going to figure out some things along the way. It just naturally happens.
for sure. I love that. Like, what makes you different? There's a bunch of other filmmakers out there. There's a bunch of other motion designers. What makes you stand out from the rest? What makes people want to follow you specifically? Try to answer that question for yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
Someone
cool,
sent me a
guys. If
direct.
that's, oh, there you go.
I think this will be the last one because then Ben and I got to hop off here.
Sure.
The insights were helpful. Can you put some light on how to approach big companies or entities for film shoots, and maybe tie-ups? Okay, so how do you approach big companies and then entities? That kind of goes back to what we were talking about, spec ads. I guess it just depends
Yeah.
on how big the company is. If it's a Fortune 500 company or someone that's really big, for them to even pay attention to you, you have to create something that's similar to that industry. So if you're going after a Nike, or, maybe it's just a company that makes a few $100 million a year, how do you get that attention from them? Because they might either have in-house people or connections already. And so they're going to reach out to them. But for you to get their attention, you would need to create something that maybe they're not doing, but you're doing it a different way that still implements their branding or something like that that gets that attention. And then networking, try to connect with people that maybe work at the company or work with other companies that are similar to the industry to get the experience so that you understand a company like that and how they operate and what they're looking for, and you know what they want their marketing to do, for that company. So yeah, just trying to do what you can to get their attention, I think, can help.
And I also think not every company, like at the end of the day, a business's job is to make money, right? So while like cool hype videos and stuff, or they look cool, sometimes you got to ask yourself, is this video going to make the company more money? Because these big companies, that's kind of their bottom line. And, is this going to help us with our brand image? Is this going to help us earn more money, to convert directly to sales, right? So maybe you're looking at their feed and you go, oh, well, they don't do a lot of videos that educate people on the design behind their product, or they don't do a lot of things that maybe, talk about the specific nuances of, if it's an apparel company, like their patented fabric or whatever it might be. Like, try to think of ways that like you can help the brand separate themselves. Like, if a brand's going to invest in you, you have to provide something, sometimes more than just a bunch of cool clips slapped together, right? Like, think about how you can help them as well.
No, that's a good point. Being able to add value to that company, because if they want to work with you, they're going to want to work with you long term. So if they see that you're, thinking about their company and how they can grow and do better, or that you're seeing things that they didn't see, and you're offering that to them, maybe you do it for free once or twice to get that connection going. That can really set you up long term for more work coming your way.
Yeah. And yeah, think of big campaigns, how you can help them in the long run. Hey, we want to do this series for you, or we're going to do 30 videos, and this is the results it's going to get you. A company might have more inclination to do that because they can see the benefit of that, versus just like, I want to make you a really cool hype reel. It's like, they probably have people that can do that.
Yeah. And then you got to commit and do the work.
Yeah. 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 Maybe not 30, but
Yeah. Cool. Well, that was some good questions. Appreciate everyone having some questions for us. I plan to actually probably post this either to our YouTube or somewhere where it could be seen later on, just so it can live there. And if people want to access it, they'll be able to see it and pull some gems out of it if they think it can help them out a little bit.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you, Harrison, taking the time out. Sorry, I went over
Appreciate-
2:00.
No, you're good. Appreciate you, Caleb. Appreciate you as well, Ben. You guys are the goats.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, we'll catch you later, man. We'll see you.
See you.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Thanks everybody for tuning in as well. It means a lot.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
All right. Thank you, guys.